Hello everyone, Happy New Year to one and all. Myself Praveen Pathak. I welcome you on the YouTube channel that is Praveen Pathak Industrial Safety. This channel is specially designed for the students and the industrial persons who are linked with the industrial safety, environment field, industrial hygiene, industrial health and energy field. It is also useful for the students who are related to the Diploma in Industrial Safety, Advanced Diploma in Industrial Safety, Fire and Safety, Fire Engineering, BSc, graduation, etc. Now, there are various videos which are available on this channel, especially for the industrial hygiene, industrial health, safety in legislation, environment field, management, quality control, etc. And now in this presentation, we are going to discuss about the LOTO concept under quality control in occupational health. So what exactly the LOTO means? That is lockout and tagout. So how this LOTO system applies in industry, what exactly this lockout is, what exactly this tagout is. Then from this picture you can understand there are various types of locks, various types of tags which are available in the industries. Some of the industries are using these LOTO systems, LOTO stations, LOTO centers, etc. And there are some of the authorized persons who are applying these LOTO systems in their department, in their industries. Who is authorized person? Who is eligible for applying these LOTO systems? What exactly the requirement for applying this LOTO system is? What are the different trainings available for this LOTO? Which is the essential or mandatory things which is related to the LOTO? What exactly happen if the LOTO system does not apply? Where exactly it is to be applied, etc. All things we can discuss one by one. So this is the slide which gives you the idea what exactly the LOTO fundamental. So in your industry, normally we are having the raw material, the equipments, processing and output. So it is mainly applicable to the equipment or the systems which are available in your industry. The industry may be manufacturing industry, the industry may be other types of industry, but which are having the energy source. So you can block, lock or the tag everything going in. So whatever the energy source you are having, you can block that source, you can lock that source and you can have the tag on that particular lock systems. So when we are locking the energy source and when we are applying these tags on that lag, that this system is blocked by this person on this date for this time, and this is the reason for locking this energy. So the tag may be like do not operate or danger, etc. So we will discuss what exactly the types of tags are, what exactly the types of locks are. But initially we must understand when we are locking the energy, when we are applying the tags on that lags, and that system is called as LOTO, that is lockout and tagout. So there is no energy from these equipments, from the systems, and then we can understand the LOTO is applied for that particular equipment or that systems. So we can eliminate all energy and materials by training, venting and stabilizing these systems. So there should not be any stored energy in these equipments or the systems. So energy may be electrical energy, that may be a chemical energy, that may be a mechanical energy, etc. So all these energy should be drained off all this energy should be eliminated from that systems, and the energy source that is input to that systems should be locked, and tag should be applied on that locks. So create a completely isolated work environment with all energy and material sources eliminated. Ensure isolation by clearing and testing. So we have to ensure that this equipment is isolated from all the equipments, from all the energy sources, and then we can go for the next step, that may be a repairing, that may be a maintenance, that may be a replacement, that may be a modification, etc. So whatever the work which is needed by locking the energy sources to these systems, we can operate it, and after completing only we can remove these locks and tags, and then we can give the green signal to operate the equipment in a normal position. So this is the basic concept of this LOTO. So this control of hazardous energy, that is one of the motto of this LOTO is. That is called as zero energy state. So the main features of this LOTO process is to maintain, and the production groups work together to achieve the zero energy state. So there should not be any quantity or any type of energy remain in that system or in that equipment. That is our main objective of this LOTO. This is the state in which all energy sources associated with the equipment have been positively isolated. So it is not connected to any type of energy, not connected to any type of pipelines or any type of chemical sources, electrical sources, steam sources, etc. So everything is isolated from this equipment. So all stored energy released and restrained to prevent build-up of any hazards while working is in progress. So the process guarantees to every single individual that the sources of hazardous energy or material will remain positively isolated. So after applying these LOTO systems, we can have the guarantee that there is no energy source, there is no material which can create energy, like a chemical material, that may be a source of electrical energy, that may be a source of mechanical energy, etc. So all the types of hazardous energy will remain positively isolated during this period, and that period is mentioned on the tag. Suppose this repair or maintenance work is planned for 1 hour or for 2 hours, then each and every detail is should be mentioned on that tag after locking that system. So this is the control of hazardous energy in the LOTO systems. So what exactly the purpose of this LOTO? So it is intended solely to be a tool to make the PTW, that is permit to work system, more robust and foolproof. So normally when we are working in an environment where permit to work system is to be applied, for example in a confined spaces, especially the examples of these confined spaces are where the oxygen level is less than 19.5 or more than 23.5. So oxygen rich level is also dangerous, and oxygen deficient atmosphere is also dangerous. So this is one of the examples of this confined space where we need permit to work systems. Likewise, if the diameter of the pipelines, if the diameter of the manholes are small, which is not comfortable one, then also we have to apply these permit to work systems. And for supporting this permit to work systems, we have to use this LOTO policy or LOTO policy in this process of permit to work systems. So they further enhancing the level of personal protections. So with the help of these LOTO systems, under this permit to work, we can detect, we can identify the comfortable zone, the comfortable levels where the persons can easily work in that confined spaces with the sufficient oxygen level, with the sufficient light, with the sufficient ventilations, etc. So indirectly we are going to protect these persons as far as the health is concerned. So this is the LOTO policy under this permit to work systems, which is very beneficial for isolating the different types of hazardous energy. So we can reduce these different types of hazards and we can comfortably work in that environment. Then failure to comply with the provisions may result in corrective actions and disciplinary action as per the organization policy. So depending on your organization policy, depending on your management objectives, these LOTO systems can be applied. So if your management, if your organization policy is very much concerned about these LOTO systems, very much concerned about these permit to work systems, then there should be a particular corrective action in case of any failure of any type of provisions or the facility. So these types of LOTO systems or permit to work systems are mainly applicable for the maintenance work or for the servicing work, which includes the lubrications, cleaning, adjustments, retooling, unjamming, repairing, servicing and inspections. So we can apply these LOTO systems for these type of work on routine basis or on daily routine basis. Then what exactly the purpose of the LOTO standard? So if a risk exists to any person from any type of energy source and which is unexpected startup or sudden release of stored energy, all protective measures must be taken to isolate all sources of hazardous energy. So we must identify, we must observe these types of stored energy, or we can judge from the experiences that the unexpected startup of or sudden release of energy can be happen in this area or in this equipment or from these types of wires or the pipelines. So the identification of these types of hazardous energy is important, and then we can apply the LOTO standards for these types of repairing or maintenance work. The LOTO mishaps are very severe because the stored energy or the hazardous energy may be in the form of electrical or hydraulic energy, pneumatic energy, mechanical energy, chemical energy, thermal energy, radioactive energy, or other types of energy may be present in your working environment, in your equipments, in your departments. So all these types of energy are very severe. In some of the cases they are fatalities. So many fatalities are happen in the serious accidents which is caused due to this sudden release of energy, maybe in electrical or maybe in thermal or mechanical type. So mainly when we are talking about the types of energy, especially which is connected to the fatalities cases, the mainly energies are electrical energies, then in some cases chemical energies, and in some cases steam as a energy, that is heat. So thermal energy is there. So either due to the lack of knowledge or the neglection or non-availability of proper lockout devices, these types of accident can be happen. And that is why we must know about these LOTO systems, how to apply these LOTO systems, what are the precautionary measures for applying these types of LOTO systems. That is very important. So what exactly the scope is? The policy shall cover all on-site repair, servicing, component replacement, open inspection and cleaning activity on any machine or system thereof. So where the repairing work, servicing work, component replacement work, inspection or cleaning work, whatever the activities which is related directly or indirectly to the energy sources or the hazardous energy sources, so this policy or these LOTO systems is applicable to all these types of activities. Sometimes it is also cover all modification related work requiring isolation of electrical or other hazardous energy and material sources. So whenever you are planning for the modification in the equipments, modification in the piping design work, modification in the equipment design or such type of work, then you have to apply these LOTO systems to that modification work also. The broad four-step approach for this LOTO system is: the first step is locking and tagging the source of every hazardous energy material that can flow into the equipment or system to be worked upon. So whatever the source of energy, that may be in the forms of mechanical, electrical, chemical, radioactive, thermal, etc. So whatever the hazardous energy source is there, we have to lock that source of energy and we have to apply the tag on that lock for the repairing, modification or servicing work. So that is initial or the first step of this LOTO systems. Then locking and tagging of all the related energy sources which is not the main source but which is related to or connected with the main source, connected to that equipment or connected to that systems where we have to apply these LOTO systems. So we have to lock that hazardous energy source or the material input pipeline, that may be a wall systems or some other systems from which we can lock that material input, we can lock that steam inlet, we can lock that circuit breaker, etc. And then we have to apply that tag that do not operate, do not on this wall or danger, etc. So we can apply these locking and tagging systems for the connected pipelines or the connected systems to the equipment or the sources. That is second step. Third step is releasing all latent and residual energy or material within the systems and adopting the measures to prevent any rebuild up during the course of work. So we have to release all the latent and residual energy. So in some of the cases when we are talking about the thermal energy, so latent heat is there or can be trapped or can be remain in that system itself. So we have to release, we have to remove or we have to eliminate these latent heat when we are talking about the thermal energy. And in case of other types of energy where you can say that these are the residual energy. Suppose there is a chemical which can be reacted with the matter, which can be reacted with the oxygen or which can be reacted with the water itself. So the residual part of that particular chemical may be act as a residual energy. So we have to drain out, we have to clean that equipment, we have to remove that chemical or the material from that source. That is the third steps, and then only we can have the confirmation that all the energy is removed. So that confirmation is the fourth step, that is called as verifying the isolations. So we have to verify this equipment or this system is isolated from all the types of energy, from all the types of connections, from the various sources or sub sources of energy, or the stored energy and residual energy can be removed from these types of equipments or the systems, and that is called as verifying the isolations. So that is the last step of this LOTO systems. Then when to apply this LOTO? Now we are having the ideas what exactly the LOTO is and what are the steps of LOTO is, then when to apply LOTO. So when servicing and or maintaining the machines or the equipments. So if there is a need of servicing of that equipment or servicing of that uh, wall or servicing of that fittings, etc., or there may be some maintenance case or maintenance of that machine, maintenance of that fittings, or maintenance of that equipment, then we have to apply the LOTO. Then, when it's necessary to remove a guard or bypass safety devices or interlock, or if an employee has the potential to be exposed to the material process that is called as point of operation or the machine operating cycle, then we have to apply the LOTO. So the main purpose of this LOTO system is to protect the person, then to protect the damage to the properties, then to protect the equipments or the accessories which is related to that equipments to avoid the stoppage of the production, etc. So to protect all these things, we have to apply the LOTO. So we have to judge, we have to observe these things, and then we can apply the LOTO systems accordingly. Now there are some exceptions in the LOTO systems as far as the OSHA is concerned. So the when we are doing the activities like minor tool changes like drill or grinding tool, etc. So these are called the minor tools, and if you are changing these minor tools, then there is a no need of LOTO. So that is called as exception on LOTO system as far as the OSHA is concerned. Then the different examples of exceptions are adjustments or other minor servicing activities which takes place during the normal production operations. If they are routine work, repetitive work, and integral to the use of equipment for the production, then we can say that there is no essential or mandatory activities of these LOTO systems. So these are the different exceptions. That is nothing but the routine activities of the small machineries, small equipments, or some repetitive work or repetitive task which is directly not related to the hazardous energy, or which is maybe an integral part of the equipment for the production line. So all these are the exceptions on LOTO systems, and the condition is that provided alternative measures are used that offer effective protections. So the main objective of the LOTO system is to protect the person, to protect the damage of the equipment, to protect the equipment and their accessories, and to avoid the stoppage of production. So if you are doing all these things, then you can go for the routine activities without the LOTO systems. So this is the OSHA exceptions on the LOTO. This is one of the example. Normally the industrial people are asking that could changing a drill bit qualifying as an exception? Yes, provided above criteria is met. So if the alternative measures are taken care, if you are going to protect all the things like persons, equipments, production, etc., then the LOTO is exception. Then what are the exclusions? So LOTO standard does not apply to energy equipment maintenance. So that is one of the point that is called as exclusions. So cord and plug electrical equipments and hot tapping, these are the exceptions or the exclusions. So cord and plug electrical equipments, that plug has to be under the exclusive control of the employee performing the servicing or maintenance, then there is no need of LOTO. Hot tapping, when a continuity of vital services is absolutely essential, hot tap operations involving pressurized lines like steam, natural gas, etc., may be completed without applying specific LOTO procedures. Now, these are the examples of the exceptions where the hazardous energy or the energies are connected to this activity, but still LOTO is an exception due to the specific conditions. Now, this in the hot tapping case, we can't stop the operations, we can't stop these pressurized line like steam and natural gas, and that is why there is an exception of these LOTO systems for this hot tapping as well as for this cord and plug electrical equipments. So there are some activities which are connected to the energy sources, but still there are some exceptions. So these exceptions may only occur when shutdown is not feasible and engineering analysis of the hot tap procedures has been completed. So whenever this shutdown is not feasible, because when we are saying that LOTO system has to be applied, means we are cutting off the energy source. So that source may be a steam, electrical, chemical, radioactive, thermal, etc. So if you are going to cut off these electrical sources or energy sources, it means that particular equipment is going to off. Indirectly, we are going to shut down that activity, we are going to shut down that system. So if it is not feasible, then the exception is the option for these LOTO systems. Only qualified personnel provided with the adequate protection, training and equipment may perform hot tapping case. So all these hot tapping or cord and plug activities are the activities which are related to the hazardous energy. So these pressurized lines like steam and natural gas are also there, and that is why the person that is called as authorized persons are only authorized to do this activity like hot tapping and with adequate protection and trainings. So these authorized devices, so from this picture you can understand what exactly the locking is, what exactly the tags are available. So there are various types of locks are available in the market, various types of tags are available. Even you can prepare your tags for your activities in your industries, because all the standard tags are not suitable for all types of activities, and that is why we can prepare the tags on your own, but these locks should be standard. So authorized devices should be capable of withstanding the environment to which they are exposed for the maximum period of time that exposure is expected. Suppose this activity is for 2 hours, sometimes for 4 hours, and sometimes the activity may extend for 1 day or 2 days also. So if the more time is there, then in that working environment, because in some of the working environment, the humidity is more, in some of the environment, some chemical exposure is there, in some of the environment, the temperature is more, in some of the environment, the ventilation is improper, and likewise. So depending on the condition, depending on the environment, you have to identify, you have to observe whether all these devices are capable of withstanding the environment for that exposure time. Then tag out devices must be constructed and printed so that exposure to weather will not cause deterioration or the message to become illegible. So all these tags should be in a with good quality and in a proper position, so that these tags can't be removed easily from these locks or can't easily separate out from these tags. So that should be constructed and printed on these lock systems. Then it shall indicate the identity of the person applying the devices. So normally the authorized person is the main title for these tags, the name of authorized person with designation and the type of activity, what exactly the message you want to convey to the workers, and what is the date and time for this activity. So that time may be a tentative time, because sometimes the extension of time may be the case. So that tentative time, that is from 12 to 2 p.m. like that you have to mention, and authorized persons with sign should be mentioned, so that we can understand this person has logged these energy sources, and due to this tag we can understand we don't have to operate this valve, we don't have to start these buttons or the plug, etc. So this is the characteristics of these authorized devices. So this is the example of the tag centers. Sometimes we called it as lockout stations. So that should be a centralized point to keep the appropriate tags, locks and the key cabinets at one place, so that each and every person or each and every employee must know that these locks are available in this lockout station or in the tag centers, and if the locks are not available, it means these locks are utilized by some of the persons, and all these things are registered or mentioned in one of the register. So you can understand these locks are utilized by that person for this time, etc. So all these things should be recorded in these lockout stations, and these are the examples. From this photogram you can understand what exactly the lockout stations and tagouts are. So these locks and tags are available in a single cabinet. So this is the example of LOTO procedure, that is prepared before job starts. So that job may be a repairing activity, that may be a servicing activity, that may be a maintenance activity, whatever it may be. So before starting this job, you have to prepare this LOTO procedure. The LOTO procedure is given in this picture. Then job description should be mentioned in this machine specification procedure sheet. Lockout points description should be mentioned. Lockout points location should be mentioned. Then isolation within the job scope should be mentioned. Then located at job site, and completion verification. That is verification. It means the isolation of all the types of energy to these equipments, to these systems, that is called as verifications. So these verification should be done by the expert person, and if the verification is done by this person, then completion of this verification should be mentioned in this machine specific procedure or this LOTO procedure. Then two sets of eyes are mentioned. So from this diagram or this sample sheet, you can understand what are the contents of this LOTO sheet is there. So this is a sample, that is machine specific procedure. This machine specific procedure establishes the minimum requirement for the lockout of energy isolation and for the maintenance or servicing activities, or the setup is done. So you have to mention the particular branch location, the machine, which type of machine is going to apply these LOTO systems, then who is manufacturer of this machine, what exactly the model, the serial number, etc. Then the different aspects like the revision date or the origin date. Then the step one is the locks and tags needed. So which types of locks, which types of tags are needed, that is one of the essential tasks that should be identified that by the authorized persons. Then what exactly the caution is, so can cause electrocution, that is contact with the live circuit, that is one of the main hazard for this particular type of machine. So this caution is very important. So ensure closed and locked before proceeding for the work. So that is the main caution, and that should be identified by that authorized person only, and accordingly the types of locks and the types of tags should be applied. Then notify affected employees of machine lockout. So we will discuss what exactly the affected employees. Then in the step 3, shut down the machine. Then 4, isolate the energy sources, that is isolation techniques. Then energy sources identified in the photos. So you have to take the photographs by applying these locks, by applying these tags, by applying these isolations of the sources, etc. And these sources or these photograph as a proof should be attached into this sheet. And then the fifth step is Lock out the energy sources, follow the instruction below the lockout the energy sources. So the energy source is electrical one. So you have to mention, you have to select the type of source. Then location is E-1 in MCC room. The method is switching position. Then lockout devices, that is miniature circuit breaker, that is called as MCB. Then lockout green Siemens with padlock, and the check is affected restart at E1. Then we can go for the step 6, 7 and 8. So 6 1 is release control stored energy. 7th is verified the lockout. Follow the verification instruction in step 5. And then 8th one is maintain the lockout systems. So all these things are should be followed by the authorized person who has already done or go through the various types of training for these LOTO procedures. So you have to identify your own LOTO procedures. You can prepare your specific procedure setup. You can prepare your own job sheet for these LOTO systems, and then we can follow all these procedures accordingly. So what are the documents which is useful for these LOTO systems, especially when we are talking about the LOTO system application for the machines? The machines or equipment has no potential for stored or residual energy or reaccumulation of stored energy after the shutdown, which could injure employees. So we have to identify, we have to confirm that the stored energy or the residual energy is eliminated from that machine or the equipment. Machine equipment has single energy source, readily identified and isolated. So this is the single energy source, and which is isolated from the energy source. Then the isolation and LOTO of that energy source will completely de-energize and deactivate machines or the equipments. So D means remove. So we have already removed these energy sources. We have already removed these residual energy, stored energy, or other types of energy from that machine or equipment. That is called as perfect isolation. Then the machine or equipment is isolated from the energy sources and lock out during the servicing and maintenance also. So during these activities also we have to follow all these activities. That is the removal of energy source, locking of this energy source, removal of the stored energy and residual energy. Then single LOTO device will achieve lockout conditions. LOTO device is under the exclusive control of the authorized employee performing servicing maintenance. So these authorized employees also one of the important aspects in these LOTO systems. So authorized employees, affected employees are the terminologies which are related to the LOTO systems. We will discuss in the next slides. Servicing and maintenance does not create hazards for the others. So we have to check, we have to judge these servicing steps or the maintenance steps that this does not create any type of hazards for the other persons also. The employer has had no accidents involving unexpected activation, re-energization of machines, equipments being serviced or the maintenance. So these are the documented procedures for every machines. It is not necessary if everything listed below the exist. So the role and responsibilities that I have discussed already, that what exactly the authorization is, who is authorized employee, what exactly the affected employees. So any employee who may be involved in the service or the maintenance of any machine or equipment that has potential for release of hazardous energy is authorized to lock out and tag out if he or she is trained. So it means normally this LOTO system is applicable to the persons who are in the service or maintenance department or who are doing these activities on a regular basis, who are having the experience as well as they are having the training sessions for these types of LOTO systems. That is called as authorization. So this is authorized employee. So who are the employees who are authorized for these LOTO systems? So authorized employees are those who have received proper training and have been authorized by their department manager to apply these LOTO devices when necessary. The recommendation is each department manager shall prepare a section-wise list of all permit to work issuers and authorized employees of this department, clearly laying down the work area of each. So if someone is expertise in the pipeline systems which carries the steam, then they can um, act as a authorized employees for these LOTO systems where the same stream as a energy stores. Then you have to mention that for these permit work systems, these are the authorized employee for this type of activity. Suppose someone is expert in the confined spaces like oxygen deficient atmosphere or oxygen rich atmosphere, then that person's name with designation and contact number should be displayed on the notice board that this person is an authorized employee for these LOTO systems or for these permit to work systems for this type of activity. So authorized employee is one who is officially authorized to apply the equipment lock. So suppose this is the example that this equipment lock is in yellow color. So depending on your organization's policies, you can change or you can use the different color coding, but the standard color coding which is already implemented in different countries, which I have been talking about this. So yellow color is specially used for this equipment lock. Then, for example, an electrician could be an authorized employee for applying this employee equipment lock and equipment like PCC, MCC, starter, DB, etc. So, electricians are always working on these types of equipment, that may be a circuit breaker, that may be a starter, etc. So this electrician can be a department which is authorized from the department manager and which is clearly mentioned in the list of the authorized employee which is given by the permit to work issuers. So electrician is already having the experience regarding these types of equipments and the work, and he may have already gone through the different types of training how to handle these types of uh, circuit breakers or the starter equipments or the equipments which are having the electrical energy as a source. Then the second, a process operator would be an authorized employee for process facilities like valves or dampers, etc. in his section and so on. So in the chemical industries, normally when we are talking about the equipments like the reactors, heat exchangers, etc., then there is a specific operator for doing that activity. Suppose for the distillation operation, the distillation equipment is operated by the experience holder only, and that operator is an authorized employee for doing that operations or the LOTO systems. So the role of this authorized employee, after applying this equipment lock, the authorized employee shall hand over these keys to the permit issuer or hung in the KCB. So this KCB is nothing but the key control box. So after applying the equipment lock, the role or the responsibility of that authorized employee is to hang this key in the key control box or to hand over these keys to the permit to work issuer person. Right? So these are the roles and responsibilities and the minimum criteria for the authorized employee. So this is the appendix where the details of these authorized employees can be displayed, can be shared to all the employees in your organizations. and these are the examples of this equipment lock, which is in the yellow color. Then the other terminology is affected employee. So from the title itself, you can understand if anything is happen related to the servicing maintenance activity, then who is going to affect? So that person or that employee is nothing but the affected employee, right? So the affected employee are those whose job requires the operation or use of machines or the equipment on which servicing or maintenance is being performed under the LOTO need to be notified upon the shutdown and startup. For example, any individual who gets directly involved in any point of time during the course of work, an affected employee could be a rigger, a fitter, a welder, a technician, a operator, a helper, a contract labor, and so on. So, in case of any energy release or sudden energy release or the stored energy release case is there, then the person who is nearby to that energy source can be affected, and that is why these are the examples of these affected employees are. So what is the role of that affected employees? So every affected employee shall apply his personal lock, that is in red color, and in case of contract labor personal law to be applied by the contractor supervisor, so that should be in the black color. So this color coding can be identified in an easy way or by the safety officers or any person who is responsible for the observations inspection in the industry, that this black color clearly indicates that this lock is applied by the contracted supervisor. If the red color lock is there, then this lock is applied by the personal person who is affected employee. And if the yellow color is there, then that is the equipment lock which is applied by the authorized persons. So all these things are shown in this picture. That is the examples of these red color locks and tax systems, then black color locks and tax systems, and the affected employee. Then PTW issuer. So we have already discussed about the permit to work systems. So we will discuss the permit to work system in detail in another presentation. But now in this case, we have already discussed what exactly or where to apply this permit to work system. So especially when we are not comfortable with some types of work conditions, like where the ventilation is improper or not sufficient, where the illumination or lighting is not sufficient, where the oxygen level is very low or where oxygen level is very high, and where the diameter of pipelines, where the diameter of the manholes or the equipments or the reactors or the working exposure where the chemicals exposure is more. So these are the different conditions where you can say that the permit to work system should be applied. So the expert person who is knowing about these various conditions where we can use the permit to work system, that person is called as permit to work issuer, who is trained person who is designated in charge of that issuing department in the concerned shift and has been authorized in writing to issue permit to work in a defined block area. For example, production officer would be the permit to work issuer for his production section. The electrical officer may be a permit to work issuer for the electrician work. Then for some other work, that may be for the control panel activity, that may be for the circuit breaker activities, that may be for the starter activity, etc. Then the utility officer, utility means the energies like steam, compressed air, water, etc. So all these utilities are utilized in the production or in other types of activities for maybe heating purpose, for cooling purpose, for other purposes in the industries, and the officer which is who is responsible for all these types of utilities called as utility officer. So the utility officer may be a permit to work issuer for non-electrical utilities like boilers, compressors, chillers, etc. Then the role of this permit to work issuer is shall apply this facility owner lock in the blue color. So this image clearly showing that blue color lock. So this blue color lock clearly indicate that this lock is applied by the permit to work issuer. So from that person, that may be for the electrical purpose, that may be for the utility purpose, or that may be for the other purposes. But if it is in the blue color, it means it is applied by the permit to work issuer. So on the KCB, after ensuring that all the applicable EL keys have been hung inside the KCB and covered, affected employees has locked the KCBs with the personal lock. So we have already discussed all these things, what exactly the EL is, KCB is, and their responsibilities of the respected persons. So the roles of this PTW issuer are the same as spelled out in the PTW standards, and a PTW issuer, that is facility owner or an authorized employer, may not be directly involved in the actual supervision, inspection or the observations, but indirectly he may involved in these LOTO systems. It is possible that the same individual may be assigned roles of the authorized employee and the PTW issuer. So depending on the number of persons, depending on the experience and the expertise in that field, the employee may be same. So a single person may be an authorized employee and he may be a PTW issuer also. So this is the example of the KCB we have already discussed. So these red locks are the example that is applied from the affected employees, and this key control box, that is KCB, is in the yellow color. So depending on your color coding, depending on the color systems you are going to apply, so these are the some of the examples. Then these are the examples of tags. So you can prepare your own tags. So normally we are going to apply these tags for this isolation purpose for the different types of hazardous energy, and that is why it is called as safety tag systems. So this is the tags which is clearly indicate the danger sign, always in the red and white combination with the scientific reason also, and the message that is equipment lockout by. So the name of the authorized person, the date of that particular activity, and only an authorized person may remove this tag. That is the specific message. So you can add some points in the tags also. You can prepare or modify these types of tags also. So tags are used if energy isolating devices not capable of being lockout. Tags should not be removed without authorization of the authorized persons responsible for it. Tags must be legible and understandable by all employees. Sometimes if you need that these tags, these messages should be in the Hindi or in the local language, then you can prepare your own tags in the Hindi or local language also, depending on the requirement and the conditions. The main thing is that the system, that the message should be clear by the workers or the helpers. So this lock or key control mechanism, every lock and its key shall be bear a unique serial number and shall be color coded as per the procedures. So we have already talked about the different color coding systems like yellow, red, black, blue, etc. So the serial number and color of each lock or key shall be recorded in a permanent register to be maintained by the respective department managers, and every lock, whether EL, PL, PIL, shall have only one key. In case of loss of key, the corresponding lock shall be destroyed and replacement is issued. So there should not be multiple keys, which is normally a routine procedure in other types of applications, but that should not be the case when we are using these keys and lock systems for the LOTO. So there should be only one key. So details of this destroyed lock key should be deleted and registered from the register, and that of the new one recorded. So adequate number of types of various locks should be available. Various hooks inside the display board should be available in that KCB. The checklist should be prepared by that PTW issuer or the authorized person, and depending on the nature of the respective roles. So from the authorized persons or affected employees, facility owner or PTW issuer, these are the different persons who are the having the specific roles and responsibility for this LOTO systems. So all these things should be taken care in the key control mechanism under these LOTO systems. So this is one of the concern, that is electrical equipment lockout. So normally when we are talking about these LOTO systems, mainly it is applicable for the electrical sources. So identify the proper disconnecting device for this electrical equipment, verify the correct disconnecting device at the field, start or stop, then off and tag field start or stop, ensure equipment off when throwing main disconnect, then lock and tag disconnecting devices at ECR, try field start and stop, and then tag field start and stop. So depending on the condition, depending on the requirement, you have to apply these specific locks to the specific systems or the equipments or the instruments. So depressing and locking an emergency stop, push button or any other control circuit type device is not an acceptable means of isolation. So don't use these emergency stop cases when you have applied these LOTO systems for the electrical equipments. So the isolation for this electrical work is the specific SSE standard electrical safety contains the mandatory requirements for the safe electrical working on or near exposed electrical conductors. So isolation for carrying out electrical work should only be done by suitably trained and authorized persons in accordance with the isolation. So we have already talked about the authorized persons, affected persons, permit to work issuers, utility officers, etc. So the persons who are directly related to the electrical activities, who are having the experience in the electrical work, who are already trained in the electrical work only, they are the persons who can done these isolations and the different procedures for this electrical safety work. Clearing means the controlled shutdown of the systems, de-inventory systems, purge, drain or flush systems, potential of stored energy, and verify these systems. So we have already talked about these systems in the procedures of this LOTO. We have to remove all types of energy, we have to drain out all types of materials or the chemical sources. That is called as clearing of the systems or the equipment. Then what exactly the individual lockout and group lockout? So individual lockout means shut down the machine, power control off, lockout, stored energy dissipated and then isolated, and engage the controls for the machine operations, verify the off conditions of that particular machine or the equipment, then work may proceed. So if shift changes, individual LOTO repeated by the next shift can be done. So if all these things are on the basis of individual only, if the individual person can do all these types of activity, then it is called as individual lockout. So if after service, after maintenance, after completing these the different activities which is related to the energy source, then you can restore these equipments to the service again. It means we can start the energy sources, we can supply these different types of energy to that equipment or the systems. So that can be done by replacing all guards and safety devices, then inspect work area to ensure all non-essential items have been removed and machine or equipment components are operationally intact, vents and bleeders closed, blinds removed, blocks and tags removed, and then employees notified and moved to the safe area. So we can restore all these equipments, we can restore all these services, and then after verifying these activities, the person can move to the safe area. So these are the things which is related to the individual lockout systems. Then the example of this individual lockout is that is also called as single lockout. So this photo can be utilized for the single lockout systems, that is for the replacement of the motor bearing. So the input energy source is electrical one and the stored energy is not available in these electrical motor systems. So the affected person is fitter and the authorized person is executive. So the person who is having good experience in these electrical motor systems is the authorized persons. So that may be a area owner, that may be a permit issuer, or that may be a expert person in that department. So that is the example of this single lockout or individual lockout systems. Then the next terminology is group lockout. So the name itself clearly suggests that more than one persons are involved in this lockout tagout systems. That is called as group lockout. So it is the same as individual lockout system, except primary responsibility vested in authorized employee for set number of employees involved. So provisions for authorized employee to a certain exposure status of individual group members. When more than one crew, craft, department, etc. is involved, then LOTO responsibility given to one authorized employee for the coordinations. So the senior one or the experienced one or the expert person from this group, from this crew should be a authorized employee for the coordination, because there should be one leader who can give the orders, who can guide to the other employees which are under these group lockout activities. Then each authorized employee affixes personal LOTO devices to group LOTO devices or lockbox when they begin work. So this is the example of this group lockout systems. That is nothing but the seal replacement of hot water, jacketed low pump, input in energies are electrical, then hot water and chemicals. So there are three energy sources, that is hot water, that is thermal energy, electrical and chemical, that is the process flow. So there is no stored energy available in this low pump, but the affected person is fitter and the authorized person is the executive. So only one person from this crew, from this group, is the authorized person who can give the guidance to the other persons or the members who are present in this group activity. So this is the group lockout systems. Now you can, I hope you understand what exactly the individual group systems or individual lockout systems and the group lockout system is. So from this picture you can understand the different types of locks, tags and locking fixtures. That is for the miniature circuit breaker, that is called as MCB, and MCCB, that is molded case circuit breakers. So it is especially for the electrical energy sources or for the electrical works. Now you can have the ideas for different locks and tags or locking fixtures for other types of energy sources also. But when we are talking about the LOTO systems, or when we observe the statistical data related to the accidents, then we can observe the main LOTO system should be applicable to at least for the electrical energy sources. So this is another picture which can give the idea regarding the different types of locks. tags locking fixture for the different types of wall like gate wall, globe wall, diaphragm wall, needle wall, etc. Then we can apply these types of fixtures to different types of walls assembly. So these are the different types of walls. So we are locking this wall. It means we are stopping or isolating the equipment or the system from the different types of energy sources. And we have applied the tags like do not operate these walls. Now in the previous slides we have discussed about the authorized person. That authorized person should be a trained person from the different sources, and that is why this training is essential activity. So training record for the LOTO system is also essential for recording the different types of training for that employee. So the employer shall provide training to ensure that the purpose and the functions of the energy control programs and understood by the employees, and that the knowledge and skills required for the safe application, uses and removal of the energy controls and acquired by the employees. So these training record for lockout and tagout systems like instructor name, date, address, qualification, then course outline of this training, then the list of employees receiving training like serial number, employee name, signature, and the instruction signature. So all these are the different consents that may be modified as per our requirement, and that can be called as a particular appendix for these LOTO systems. So this training on the purpose, content and the functions of the LOTO policy is required for all employees who participate in or are affected by the LOTO of equipments. So authorized persons, or that may be a affected person or the employees. Then the training can be obtained through EHS and or through the department specific training. So in some of the companies, in the industries, so separate training center or training department is available. In some of the industries, separate EHS or SHG department is available. In some of the industries, separate safety, separate environment, and separate health department is also available. So depending on the condition of your industry, you can have the trainings from that particular or respective department. If you don't have the expert person in your organization for conducting these types of training, then you can have the person from other sources or from the other industries also. But the training is an essential task for doing the activities under this LOTO system as an authorized person. So if it is needed, then you can go for the training to all the employees, and training should include purpose of LOTO program, use of the energy control program, LOTO devices and plant specifics, then rules and consequences of unauthorized removal of LOTO devices. So these are the different training contents, and the affected employees should include the purpose and use of the LOTO procedures, how to recognize the LOTO equipments. Because when we are calling it affected, it means the person is affected due to the sudden release of energy, or due to the effect of stored energy, or due to some other types of energy. So that person should identify or should recognize that LOTO equipment or the locks and tag systems. Then prohibition on tampering with the LOTO equipments. So these are the contents for this training or for the all employees, and especially for the affected employees. So the list and identify all sources of energy, that is the basic and essential conditions for all the types of employees, especially for the affected employees. which is the electrical energy source, which is the hydraulic one, which is pneumatic, which is thermal, which is high pressure energy source, which is chemical energy, which is mechanical energy, which is combustible materials, which is radioactive sources, and cord and plug equipments. So each and every employee must identify these types of sources and what is the effect due to these types of energy sources. So authorized persons, we have already discussed about this person that he should go through the different types of LOTO trainings, and he should recognize and identify the potential hazards and the stored energy sources in that work area or the department, and then he can explain the proper use of these LOTO procedures for remaining employees in that area or the department. So specific area equipment LOTO procedures are should also available, and how to deal with the special conditions that should be trained by these authorized persons. So these are the few examples of these posters. Do not tamper with the lockout devices. Then use lockout devices during maintenance or any operator adjustments. Then remember, before working on equipment, lock out all power sources. Then warning is normally in the yellow and black color. That is why this color coding is used. So lock out all machinery prior to servicing. Failure to comply will result in disciplinary action. Then ensure all power sources are isolated and lock out before working on machining. So these are the example. You can prepare your own posters for the conditions which is available in your industries. Then the issuance of this PTW and LOTO checklist. So whatever we have discussed in this presentation, it is represented in this single slide. So understand the task before applying these LOTO systems, before issuing these LOTO checklist to the persons. So you have to understand the task, what exactly the task is. So that may be related to the electrical energy, that may be related to the chemical energy, that is thermal energy, radioactive energy, or some other sources. So whatever may be the activity, whatever may be the task. So that activity may be related to the circuit breaker, that may be related to the wall, that may be related to some other types of fittings, that may be a maintenance activity, service activity, or some modification, etc. So you have to understand the task, that is the basic thing. Then site visit to identify energy sources and isolating devices. So you have to visit that site where we have to apply these LOTO systems. You have to identify the energy sources and you have to isolate the devices. Then notify all affected employees. So in case of any sudden energy release from the system, or in case of any sudden energy release from the stored energy or contaminated energy, that should be identified, and which employees can be affected due to these types of energies or incident or accidents. Then after identifying this affecting employee, you have to fill up the permit and LOTO checklist with locks, tags, and KCB details. So you should identify which types of energy sources, which types of affected employees, and then you have to fill that permit to work systems. You have to fill the LOTO checklist and which types of locks, which types of tags, and which types of keys are available in the organizations. Then you have to go for the shutdown and machine the equipments and position the energy isolated devices. So depending on your activity requirement, you have to shut down the machine or you have to shut down the equipment. Then apply the LOTO, that is you have to lock that equipment, you have to lock that machine, you have to lock that energy source, you have to apply the tags with the details like the name of the person, date, time, and the specific message like do not operate or do not on this particular button, etc. So ensure all precautions are taken. Example, electrical insulation, putting locks tags by all parties involved and hanging keys in the key circuit board, that is KCB. Then focus on residual or stored energy and verify isolation by performing lock, tag, clear and try the steps. Sign the permit, and after verifying these all the isolation is done, specification which is related to the residual energy or which is related to the stored energy. So after verification of all these isolations to the energy sources, to the stored energy or to the residual energy, then we can give the green signal for doing the activities. That is nothing but the permit acceptance. Then perform the repair or servicing task and restore the equipment to service. So after performing the repairing activity or servicing activity, modification activity or some other type of task which is required the LOTO systems or which required the permit to work systems. So after completion of this task, after verifying that the total work is done in a safe mode, then we can restore all these equipments to routine services. So fill LOTO checklist with the locks received back, authorized the energization if isolated. So now you can go for the routine activities of this. That may be a production, that may be a other type of work. So we have to fill the LOTO checklist again, and after verification of all these activities, that all the activities are in a safe mode, that we can reload all these energy sources and we can do the activities in the routine style, then we can give the green signal to complete these activities. So that is called as permit closure. So in this single slide you can understand what exactly the issuance of permit to work and what is the relation of this PTW to the LOTO systems or to the LOTO checklist. Thank you.